Talk about sticker shock. Just imagine you open your electric bill and it shot up 400%.
Yeah, speaking of power, well, it can happen if you are not careful about how you pick your supplier. Dennis Owens found out firsthand, and he joins us with this story. Dennis.
Well, ladies, the moral of this story, and it's the moral of so many stories, I should have listened to my wife. In the fall, we were shopping our electric. She said, make sure you get a fixed rate, not a variable rate. I was lured in by a deal that was too good to be true, and in the end, it was. Fall, our fixed rate had expired and the rate per kilowatt was creeping up. In October, it was 11.5 cents. The bill was $217. November, just under 11 cents and just under $300 for the month. So I jumped on PAPowerswitch.com. There were 75 options. I chose American Power and Gas. No locked-in contract term, no cancellation fee. Just 6.3 cents a kilowatt hour, but variable. Usage was up in December, but at 6 cents, it was a manageable $375. Then came January. That 6 cents zoomed to 22 cents per kilowatt hour. My bill for 1 month, more than $850.
They get you at the teaser rate, what I like to call a bait and switch. And then, you know, a couple months down the road, they jack the price up on you and they're hoping you're not watching it.
Because it is variable, that means it can change at any time.
Jennifer Coker is with the Public Utility Commission, and she says there's been 150 complaints about outrageous bills this week alone.
You can go out there and talk about variable rates till you're blue in the face, but if someone doesn't understand it and they sign up for it, they're still going to feel wronged.
But variable rates aren't the problem, according to John Dull. Unscrupulous businesses are. Dull is an independent energy consultant. His company's variable rate today is just over 8 cents.
If our company can offer it for a little over 8.4, why can't they offer it for a little over 8.4?
But experts say a fixed rate is safer. You know what you're going to pay. With a variable, companies can legally charge whatever they want and call it market price. I call it a lesson learned. John calls it something else.
You got ripped off. I mean, you're paying a rate, you know, almost 3 times, 22 cents a kilowatt. That's, our current rate right now is like 8.4.
So there are two bottom lines here. Gone are the days when your electric bill was your electric bill. The free market is here, and the free market is not free. In fact, it can be expensive if you don't shop around and if you don't read the fine print. Secondly, just to reiterate, guys, listen to your wives.
Well, we told you about Dennis Owens and his sticker shock last week after he got a high electric bill. It turns out he isn't alone.
I'm very angry.
Andy Wolf is a policeman in the Mid-State who lives in Adams County. His typical electric bill is between $300 and $400. His most recent?
Just under $2,400.
Andy's variable rate with Pennsylvania Gas and Electric jumped from 8 cents a kilowatt hour to 28 cents.
It was just complete shock. My wife cried for a day just because there's no way we can afford that.
Andy's not alone. Dozens of Mid-Staters contacted ABC 27 after I shared my experience with American Power and Gas. My rate jumped from 6 to 22 cents a kilowatt hour. A normal $300 bill jumped to $850. I called Monday to test the rates at American, and in 4 minutes was promised 4 times a competitive rate.
We really do have to have, a very highly competitive variable rate every month in order to keep our customers happy.
I told Kelly that I'd heard of American charging 22 cents and unhappy customers. She played the weather card.
Have you heard of anything called a polar vortex? It's been affecting, all the utilities as well as all the suppliers. Have you heard of anything like that?
Except utilities are charging about 8 cents. Andy got the same pitch from PG&E.
They promised it would always be competitive with Med-Ed. Well, 20 cents a kilowatt hour is not competitive. That is not competition. That's not even in the same ballpark.
0.798. I'm very happy.
But we did help Teresa Justice, who signed up for American's variable rate, moments later saw our story, moments later canceled the deal, choosing a fixed rate instead.
Oh my gosh, you saved my pocketbook. Because what happened if I get a bill for $850? I mean, that's a mortgage. You've been a godsend, thank you.
More and more more of you are coming forward with stories of astronomical electric bills.
This all came to light after Dennis Owens shared his whopping $850 bill. Yikes! Dennis is here with more.
Ladies, misery loves company, I guess, and lots of you are sharing your horror stories of electric bills that have doubled, tripled, even quadrupled. So, what can you do about it? The electric bill at New Kingston's Family Worship Center was just over $1,400 in December, about normal. But the congregation was driven to its knees in January. Its variable rate with Pennsylvania Gas and Electric spiked. Its January bill, just over $4,100. The treasurer said, how dare they? How are we supposed to come up with that money? It's a familiar tale.
We are frankly overwhelmed. We've had about 250 complaints that have come into our office in the last week and a half.
Tanya McCloskey is the consumer advocate who says high variable rates are not illegal. She recommends that you dispute the bill with the company, complain to the PUC and her office.
We're trying to collect as much information as we can to see if any other type of legal action is justified against some of the suppliers.
Yeah, we've gotten complaints.
Senator Rob Teplitz has also heard it, and he's hosting a town hall on Thursday in Harrisburg to help consumers navigate a very confusing energy market. So consumers are supposed to go to PA Power Switch, the PUC's website for various companies. There are 75 different options I have, and many of them are variable, offering 7 cents a kilowatt hour. But the problem is you don't know what it will be after the first month. How much is their variable rate? They can't tell you. Another problem, I know for a fact Pennsylvania Gas and Electric is under investigation by the PUC. There are numerous complaints against this company, but nowhere on the website does it warn consumers that some people are having a problem with them.
I'd like to see the PUC be more proactive. When I was at the Auditor General's office, we audited the PUC's efforts at helping people make these choices, and we found that they needed to be more proactive.
And Tanya says, hey, fixed rate customers, you need to watch your bill as well, because when your contract ends, often you're dumped into a variable rate by the company unknowingly.
Which we find very troubling. We don't believe that that should be allowed.
Now, I need to be clear, just because your bill is high doesn't mean you were ripped off. The wholesale energy market did spike and demand was up. Some energy companies had to pay the higher price, which they pass on to you. But did they make that risk of volatility clear to you when you were signing up with them? And is anybody checking to see that when Company X charged you 28 cents per kilowatt hour, that it actually cost them 28 cents or thereabouts? Or are they gouging? The answer? Is anybody checking? The answer? No. High electric bills. We've been telling you about them for weeks, and today, lawmakers zeroed in on the issue with the head of the Public Utility Commission. Here's a sampling of the exchanges during an Appropriations Committee hearing today.
We have over 400 informal complaints that have been filed regarding these variable rate products.
Right now on their website, they have 7.4 listed while they're charging 15 cents. I was in the construction business for years. This is bait and switch, classic bait and switch. These people are going bankrupt. These people are nothing but sharks in the state of Pennsylvania.
If there was bait and switch, I can assure you that we will make a loud and clear statement. You're not welcome to do business in Pennsylvania. And that's license we will revoke a license.
We have to go after these companies somehow to bring them in line, because they are literally ripping off the public legally from what they're telling me.
We don't regulate the pricing of those supply contracts. We approve those suppliers to do business here, but we don't approve the pricing models.
We've got to do something here. It's unacceptable the way it's going. And I know you license these individuals, but I know they could charge pretty well what they want, but you know, something has got to be done.
It takes customers 16 to 30 days to make a switch. By the way, in Texas, you can do that in 10 minutes. So that customer that I want to get out, that you want to get out from that bad product, is going to wait 16 to 30 days in Pennsylvania's marketplace. That's unacceptable.
So I've never seen anything like this. It's like the Wild Wild West.
The five of us are unified in making sure that consumers are protected.
Public Utility Commission announced it will officially investigate sky-high electric bills.
Were they willing to offer any terms, changes, or negotiate with you?
It's gotten hundreds of complaints.
We feel their pain. We recognize as an agency we have to do more. We're going to continue to get out there and work with the suppliers that want to work with us. And let me remind those suppliers, here this morning that if those informal complaints go formal, we will not hesitate to revoke your license.
But commissioners caution that high prices aren't necessarily criminal. The market did spike in January, and if customers signed up for a variable rate, they took a risk, they got burned. But the PUC can crack down on deceptive advertising and false promises and push to make companies more clear to consumers about the gamble they're taking.
And we're doing everything we can. We do not control the competitive market pricing. That is not a area where the Commission has regulatory responsibility or authority.
To turn on the light might cost Mary 6 cents a kilowatt hour. It might cost Harry 8 cents a kilowatt hour, and Larry 22 cents a kilowatt hour. Such is life in a deregulated market. It's called the free market, but even the dimmest bulbs know it isn't free.
I think that in a world of deregulation, it certainly serves your best interest to roll up your sleeves a little bit.
Randy Brown wonders what all the fuss is about. He loves deregulation, shops once a year for electricity, always changes companies, always gets a lower price than the previous deal.
Variable, fixed.
But he always goes with the lowest fixed rate. No variable for him.
I want to buy something that I understand what I'm getting and I know what I'm paying for it. So as far as I'm concerned, a variable rate simply is shopping without knowing the prices.
But clearly, many of you feel ripped off. Was it wrongdoing by a company or the wrong choice by customers? The PUC is trying to find out.
If there are bad actors, the Commission will respond, and it will be very decisive.
And again, the headline this morning, the Public Utility Commission at its morning meeting announces it is looking into these high energy bills. Well, the more we report on high electric rates, the more mid-staters come forward feeling ripped off. And tonight, you can add a successful business owner and former politician to the list. And should you pay that bill while you dispute those charges?
You get over 15.
If this guy looks familiar, he's a former Cumberland County Commissioner, and Rick Ravino, who owns 2 huge buildings, is telling an all-too-familiar story.
We have a lot of different meters, but the single largest bill was $7,000.
And it's normally what?
It was normally in the range of $1,500.
Ravino was burned by a variable rate electric contract from Direct Energy. He says he's not paying because he can't.
And if I pay the electrical bill that they're asking, I couldn't pay the mortgage payment, the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance and upkeep on the complexes, etc. So it's simply an issue. Besides being angry about this, there simply isn't enough money.
Ravino will file an official complaint with the PUC and withhold payment until it's resolved. Experts say that's what he should do. And also contact the supplier and try to talk them into lowering the bill. It has worked, we're hearing.
There are suppliers that are offering refunds and rolling back rates for customers. They're the kind of suppliers we want in this marketplace because they're committed to maintaining good customer relations.
But bottom line is buyer beware on variable rates. There's nobody ensuring that when a company charges you big dollars for electricity, that it actually paid big dollars for that electricity.
The Commission does not have jurisdiction over that particular piece of the business. So the supplier has the ability to purchase the supply in the competitive marketplace and then pass those costs on to their consumer.
Ravino is tempted to refuse payment in protest if his dispute is ultimately rejected. But that could cause his power to be shut off and his credit to be harmed.
You can say, are you worried about my credit rating? I'm worried that I won't have enough money in my bank account to pay the electrical bills. So what does it really matter?
What does it matter, indeed? We are hearing some people are getting some relief by calling the company saying just seems too high. Yeah. Can you roll it back? But if you sign a variable rate deal and it's in the contract, you may ultimately have to pay. Pennsylvania Gas and Electric lists a Harrisburg address, but when I went looking for answers, PG&E was nowhere to be found. It's our top story tonight.
Can I have your first and last name, please?
This is where complaint calls come into the Public Utility Commission. It's gotten nearly 1,500 in recent weeks about sky-high adjustable rate electric bills. And many of the complaints are about one company, Pennsylvania Gas and Electric. We've gotten dozens of complaint emails about PG&E. Here's a sampling from John.
I feel like a sucker taken for hundreds of dollars. I since have found out that Pennsylvania Gas and Electric can basically charge any amount they want.
From Tammy.
PA Gas and Electric doubled my rate. I have a $1,400 electric bill, and I don't even heat my house with electric. Lawmakers need to step up and do something about these companies baiting us in and ripping us off.
From Jim.
I'm another consumer who got taken by this company. I saw no reason to call PAG&E because why would they lower my bill if I've already canceled their service?
Good afternoon, Pennsylvania Gas and Electric.
I did call PG&E, and customer service rep Steve Price admits complaints have been high, but says the company's trying to make things right.
I know for a fact that we're definitely handling each case, by their individual issue.
PG&E does list a Harrisburg address, Lingelstown Road, number 113. We got there, and there's number 113, nothing more than a mailbox. And the owner here says several people a day have shown up looking for the company to complain about their bills. Pennsylvania Gas and Electric is a Florida company with gas and electrics in Connecticut, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, and Ohio. But in PA, it's generating lots of complaint. The Public Utility Commission has heard it, is looking into it, but is not ready to comment on it.
Looking at, and I don't want to pass judgment or prejudice in the case that's before us or the one that may come before us with PG&E. If there are bad actors, the Commission will respond, and it will be very decisive.
State Attorney General Kathleen Kane is now stepping into the power rate arena.
She's hearing from hordes of angry Pennsylvanians who have sticker shock after opening those electric bills, and she's now officially plugged into the issue.
Dennis, we've gotten hundreds of complaints.
The state attorney general, which oversees consumer protection, is now investigating those sky-high electric bills and wants to hear from customers who feel cheated or deceived.
Everybody's for making a profit and being pro-business, but when companies take advantage, and most companies are good citizens when it comes to their customers, there are a few, and we're looking at those where that may not be the case.
Many disgruntled mid-staters are pointing fingers at Pennsylvania Gas and Electric.
We do have a large number of complaints, and we are working through them.
PG&E is a subsidiary of Florida-based U.S. Gas and Electric. I spoke with its CEO, Doug Marcel, by phone. He blamed the high bills on a once-in-a-generation perfect storm of low temperatures, high demand, and high wholesale prices. He does not fear, he says, an investigation.
We are very sympathetic to our customers' situation, but we in no way, shape, or form feel that we misrepresented our products or our company or our value proposition.
PG&E's only PA presence is this mailbox in Harrisburg. Marcel said upset customers can call or email.
We do not have a physical office in Pennsylvania. We do have one in New Jersey that's very near to Pennsylvania.
So what does Marcel tell our viewers who have used strong terms, saying his company suckered them in or ripped them off?
And I would just caution people not to overreact to a very extreme set of circumstances that have really hurt everyone at every level in this marketplace.
And the most vulnerable is the level most concerning to the Attorney General.
The impact on seniors and the poor who've not planned for this is extraordinary.
Now, the PUC says it's fielded 1,500 complaints from consumers about large bills. Kathleen Kane says file a complaint with her Office of Consumer Protection, including documents like contracts, billing, even marketing materials you got from the companies. We have more information about all of that on our website. Well, your complaints about soaring electric bills are being heard. We're getting numerous reports of companies giving rebates to angry customers shocked by bills that doubled, tripled, even quadrupled. The squeaky wheel, apparently, gets the cash. In January, it cost $162 to heat Suzanne Shaw's Susquehanna Township condo. Then came February's bill.
$431.
She had a variable rate with Pennsylvania Gas and Electric. It jumped from 11 cents a kilowatt hour to 22 cents. Suzanne's first two complaint calls to PG&E went unreturned.
So I called the Public Utilities Commission, and that's when I found out there were a lot of complaints. Plus, I saw the article on ABC 27 about it as well. And finally, I called a third time, and the lady told me, well, we're sending you a refund check.
Her refund? $165.60.
It takes me back down to what the bill probably should have been, so I was very happy to get that back, but it would have been nice not to have had to pay the $431 up front first.
How can PG&E just hand out checks to disgruntled customers? I asked its parent company CEO.
There are people that cannot afford the rates that the wholesale market has spiked to, and we are doing our part to help them. We are absorbing part of that price increase ourselves, many times taking a loss.
But why, I asked, are a majority of the complaints aimed at one company, Pennsylvania Gas and Electric?
Because we are one of the largest marketers in Pennsylvania. It's a matter of numbers.
And the numbers Suzanne most cares about are the ones that are back in her bank account.
It wasn't pleasant. I'm glad that it ended on a positive note, but I would not want to have to go through that again.
The number now is just over 2,600 Pennsylvanians have registered complaints with the PUC about high variable rate electric bills. The PUC has tweaked its website as a result. On the homepage of PAPowerswitch.com, there's a consumer alert warning residents about variable rate contracts and the fact that fixed rate customers have been dumped into variable rates after their contracts end. Additionally, when customers shop for an electric supplier, there's now a color code on the website. Fixed rate deals have a green bar on them. Variable rate deals, which can be more risky, have an orange bar. A PUC spokeswoman tells me the changes are a direct result of the complaints it has received in the last month. It wants to do what it can to make customers aware of what they're signing up for. And we continue to get lots of complaints here at ABC 27. Richard Moyer writes on Facebook, I've had IDT Energy since August of 2011. Checked my last bill, was being charged 13 cents a kilowatt hour, so I canceled with supposedly no cancellation fee, but was told it would take 30 to 60 days to cancel. To my horror, this month's bill was a staggering 26 cents per kilowatt hour. Richard continues, I called the number they left and was on hold for 37 minutes. They kept the recording message telling me to send an email. Be willing to bet I don't hear from them. Thank you for bringing this to our attention on Channel 27 News. Well, IDT has popped up a few times recently with complaints to us about high bills. To reiterate, here's what you should do. Call the companies. Tell them politely but firmly you can't afford this bill. What can they do to help? Also, you got to do this. Call the PUC. Register an official complaint. If the PUC tries to tell you that you have a variable rate and there's nothing they or you can do, tell them that's nonsense and insist upon registering a complaint. Hopefully, that will then prompt the company to call you back and offer you a rebate. Rebates are happening. We're hearing a lot about that as well. Hopefully, that works for you, too. Customers have complained to the PUC, the Attorney General, and to ABC 27 about sky-high electric bills, and they've also railed to lawmakers who are now working on ways to regulate a deregulated market. Lawmakers have gotten the memo. Senator John Gordner's memo asking for support on his bill that would ban variable rate contracts for residential electric customers in Pennsylvania.
What we've seen in the last 4 to 6 weeks is unconscionable. No one who signed up for a variable rate was expecting their rate to quadruple or quintuple.
We all know something has to be done.
What Senator Bob Mensch is doing is trashing a bill that he'd been pushing that would auction off consumers to electric suppliers. More than 6 in 10 Pennsylvanians have not shopped in the open marketplace of electricity. They're choosing not to choose. And Mensch says losing money in the process.
People are leaving money on the table. Seniors are leaving money on the table. You could save $150 to $200 a year.
But the recent complaints about shocking electric bills caused complaints about Mensch's bill that would force uneducated customers onto the open market. Companies would give the state $100 a head, raising an estimated $300 million for the Treasury. Mensch, who's up for re-election, backed off.
It had flaws, serious flaws. So it will die a slow death.
Mensch's reworked bill will have reforms that would let customers get out of bad contracts immediately and put caps on how much variable rates can spike in a given month. Senator Rob Teplitz prefers the complete elimination of variable rates.
If we're going to ask people to make the choice, we need to make it as easy as possible and that it benefit them as much as possible. There's too much of a downside on the variable rate side.
As of today, the PUC has gotten 10,000 phone calls and has registered nearly 4,000 complaints about variable rate electric bills. Pennsylvania Gas and Electric is one of, if not the top, variable rate electric provider in the state. It's also number one in terms of complaints. And today, its president and CEO tried to pull the plug on all that criticism. Doug Marcel is the president and CEO of Pennsylvania Gas and Electric. He flew in from Florida to tell lawmakers that his company was also victimized by January's spike in wholesale electricity costs.
We did not price gouge. Price gouging is making a profit on an extreme set of circumstances. We actually lost money. We charged, in some cases, 30, and we were paying 40.
How can a business survive that? I guess long-term you can't.
Long-term, that's not a good business model, obviously.
$2.74.
But PG&E's business model includes cold calling potential customers. Esther Keeney of Dillsburg got one of them last summer.
Oh, I didn't want to go with him. I kept saying no, and he said, oh, we can do better for you. So then I did. I went with him. And if I can get some money back, I deserve it.
Esther's 72, on a fixed income, and in a one-bedroom apartment. Her bill last September was just over $20, about normal. Last month, nearly $275.
I hate them. I shouldn't say that, but they took me.
Marcel says PG&E has, on a case-by-case basis, given back more than $2.5 million in rebates. I tell him about Esther.
That's a perfect example of someone we can help.
So at Esther's house, we call customer service.
Your call is important to us.
In less than 3 minutes, Joseph is on the line saying Esther can get a rebate if she agrees to sign up to a fixed-rate plan for 2 years. She reacts immediately.
No, I'm not interested.
Okay. Well, that would be the only way to get a refund for this latest bill.
I tell Joseph who I am and that I was just with the president of the company. He puts me on hold for a few minutes, comes back and says he must end the call, but takes my information. Doug Marcel calls an hour later, saying Joseph didn't understand that there are never strings attached to rebates, and Joseph is now being retrained. Esther then got a call promising a $167 rebate. But while the president did his best to mend fences with lawmakers, he still got work to do with customers like Esther.
No, I don't believe him. I don't. Would you?
And Marcel says PAG&E buys electricity on the wholesale market. That market spiked. His company had to pay the inflated price to meet demand. He insists his company lost money despite the fact that they're sending out sky-high bills to customers.
Lawmakers have been hearing from irate customers burned by high electric bills, so today they held a hearing.
The House Consumer Affairs Committee brought stakeholders together and are fired up, saying customers were ripped off. They brought charts and graphs explaining why low temperatures plus high demand equaled high electric bills in January and February. Couple that with uninformed and possibly duped customers, and it created the perfect storm.
The big problem here has been the lack of education to the consumer.
Consumer Affairs Chairman Bob Godshaw also wondered why 3 suppliers in Maryland have already been slapped with fines while Pennsylvania's PUC still investigates.
3 companies that were fined in Maryland were also licensed here in Pennsylvania.
Some of these companies preyed on people, and they didn't just prey on the vulnerable. They preyed on people of every level, every socioeconomic level, every education level. You name it, they preyed on Pennsylvanians.
A bill is in the works that would put caps on how much variable rates can spike in a given month. When one testifier said that might be overreacting, Godshaw shut him down.
I know you, I've known you for a long time, and I know you're sincere, but unfortunately, there are things that have happened here that we're just going to have to try to protect at least, our consumers.
It was stated several times in testimony that many suppliers lost money because of the polar vortex, that they too were victims. But who's checking that? When that company says it paid, for example, 44 cents a kilowatt hour and passes the cost on, who exactly is checking that they paid 44 cents an hour?
That total responsibility is the PUC. And they're also responsible for
But
the
they
education.
told me the answer is nobody, in reality.
In reality, it's nobody. That's exactly right.
When in 1996, when we deregulated the industry, no one ever foresaw this type of thing happening. We should have. We should have been prepared for this and had a cap on there. It's time that the PUC steps up to the plate and do what they have to do immediately.
Electric bills skyrocketed this winter. Companies blamed record cold. Today, they got a frosty reception at a hearing of the Senate's Consumer Protection Committee. Senators say when it comes to electricity, consumers need protecting.
There's not a single senator here that has not been contacted by friends and neighbors desperate about the size of their electric bill and how they would be able to pay for it.
Industry representatives presented charts and graphs and tried to explain why electricity prices were off the charts. The red line was usage in January 2013. The blue shows the spike this past January.
We set a new all-time winter peak electricity demand.
This week, the PUC expects to ask utilities to shorten switch times for customers from 30 days down to 3.
It will allow customers to not get trapped in another billing cycle.
Deceptive marketing also came up.
Some of these companies are targeting these seniors because they know they could get them to switch with maybe a teaser rate or whatever.
The PUC promised a crackdown.
We have to now demonstrate a zero tolerance for suppliers that have potentially hoodwinked customers, slammed customers, misinformed customers.
First Energy Solutions is charging fixed-rate customers a one-time fee of $5 to $15 to recoup losses during the polar vortex. But doesn't fixed mean fixed?
I think there's a stench associated with the request put forward by this company to recover these costs.
Stench or not, a First Energy spokeswoman insists there's language in the fixed-rate contracts of 300,000 Pennsylvanians letting the company collect the fee. So you've got the paragraphs in the contracts prior to November that language is there. Maybe if it's on page 7 or whatever, but it's there. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. It's not on page 7, but it is there.
The Senate has now joined the House, the Attorney General, the PUC, and the Consumer Advocate in investigating sky-high electric bills. Changes are likely coming, and companies probably won't like them.
I think people were victimized in some instances, and I also believe people did not have enough consumer education.
And again on Thursday, the PUC expects to request utilities to change switch times for customers who feel they're in a bad deal from 30 days now down to 3 days. It's a big deal, and the Senate promises another hearing on the issue. Public utility commissioners apologized today for what they called the heartache caused by sky-high electric bills this winter and implemented 2 new rules changes it hopes will keep it from happening again. Ashley Bear of Fairview says 2 men came to her door last summer promising cheaper electricity.
I said, perfect. You know, I have an autistic child and money is really tight as it is.
Ashley signed up for a variable rate with Respond Power.
They didn't explain to me variable rates. They didn't explain fixed rates. They didn't explain any of that.
And Ashley didn't notice until recently when her price crept to 19 cents a kilowatt hour. She tried to cancel but couldn't get through to the company. Days passed, and the price jumped to 39 cents a kilowatt. She's now $2,600 over on her budget plan.
Angry, mad, deceived.
The Public Utility Commission feels Ashley's pain and issued 2 edicts to fix the problem. One would speed up switch times. Another require that variable rate contracts be more clearly spelled out for customers. This is the welcome letter that Ashley got from Respond Power, and on the front page talks all about the added benefits, competitive rates, annual savings, even a contribution to Alex's lemonade stand. But nowhere on this page does the word variable pop up. Where's that? Flip it over, fine print, there it is, variable rate. This letter might be an example of what the PUC wants to correct.
I can tell you right now, personally, I have zero tolerance. We're not going to play the 3-strike rule with some of these suppliers.
Ashley insists if she could have switched more quickly, she wouldn't owe so much.
But I don't think I would have had to pay that if I would have canceled right then and there, because it was 19 cents instead of 40.
Utility executives testified this week that the technology to speed up switch times could cost them tens of millions of dollars.
And, you know, you guys come up with more numbers in the Wharton Business School when it comes to how much these systems cost, but shame on you for not thinking this far ahead.
And today we put the utilities on notice. You own part of this problem. You're going to fix it.
Strong words. It currently takes as many as 45 days to switch away from a supplier. The PUC wants to cut that down to 3 days. The Public Utility Commission met today in Harrisburg. It has not yet closed the book on a winter of customer discontent. And it's now warning the 3.5 million Pennsylvanians who have chosen not to shop for an electric supplier that if they stay on the sidelines much longer, their electric bills will be going up.
To the Law Bureau recommendation in the proceeding involving First Energy Solutions pass-through charge or surcharge, that matter has been postponed until public meeting of May the 22nd.
The Public Utility Commission didn't say it's officially investigating First Energy Solutions and its attempt to charge fixed-rate customers an additional $5 to $15 surcharge, but it made clear that it's not happy about it, thinks fixed should mean fixed with no hidden charges, and could, emphasis on could, take more forceful action in the future.
We do have the power that if a company unjustly collects money from a consumer, we can order refunds. And so if something like that were to be found, and it's a big if, we could order that if we felt it was appropriate.
Thousands of customers were stung by variable rate contracts this winter and got electric bills that tripled, even quadrupled. Many retreated to their default provider like PPL or MedEd. That's a bad idea, according to the head of the PUC, because the same forces that drove prices up for variable customers in the winter will soon hit default customers.
Those customers that want to go back to the mothership, the electric distribution company, buyer beware. You're going to have a situation potentially unfolding in June where those default rates will go up. So you're going to get a double whammy.
Default rates reset quarterly, and they're expected to go up on June 1st to recoup losses from this winter. But consumers can protect themselves by shopping now and selecting the lowest fixed-rate deal they can find.
Let me say unequivocally, get back out in the market for those customers that were on variable rate products and you had a bad experience. Get back in the market.
Now, you can shop on PAPowerswitch.com, and again, doing nothing if you have a default will cost you. Soaring electric prices this winter forced the Public Utility Commission into the eye of a hurricane and begged the question, is the PUC on the consumer side or the company side? The answer used to be the consumer, but since electric deregulation, it's not so clear-cut.
Increases the availability of natural gas.
Pam Whitmer is on the Public Utility Commission. So is the PUC pro-consumer or pro-company?
We're on nobody's side. We're making sure that the rules, the laws that are passed by the General Assembly, and the rules that we have in place are enforced.
But the law that brought about deregulation, says former PUC Administrative Judge Michael Schneerly, was not written to the benefit of average electric customers.
Yeah, the law favors the utilities, and primarily because you don't want them to go bankrupt, because if a utility doesn't have enough money to render service, everybody loses out.
In the fall, we were shopping our electric, but lots of Pennsylvanians lost lots of money this winter when their bills doubled, tripled, even quadrupled.
My wife cried for a day just because there's no way we can afford that.
The PUC's initial response was that customers didn't do their homework before signing those variable rate contracts.
Because it is variable, that means it can change at any time.
The PUC also insisted it is legally helpless when it comes to electric bills.
We do not control the competitive market pricing. That is not a area where the Commission has regulatory responsibility or authority.
But thousands of customers complained. So did lawmakers.
These people are nothing but sharks in the state of Pennsylvania.
We've got to do something here.
The PUC's tone changed dramatically.
We feel their pain. We recognize as an agency we have to do more.
And it did more, quickly. It changed its website, color-coding fixed and variable rates. It ordered all variable contracts to be more clearly worded and asked that customers be able to switch out of what they deem as a bad contract in 3 to 5 days instead of 30. It's talking tough to companies that may have lied to customers.
We will not hesitate to revoke your license.
There were also I'm sorries from the PUC.
We can share some of the blame, and we're trying to fix
some things that perhaps should have been done earlier.
I mean, my joke is always that, PUC now stands for Protecting Utilities from Consumers.
Dave DeCook is a reporter who covered the PUC during deregulation.
I mean, if you look at why the PUC was established back in the 1930s, it was to protect consumers from rapacious monopoly electric companies who were very bad actors.
DeCook admits the PUC reacted quickly and properly this winter, but says in general its attitude is hands-off, which can lead to customers getting ripped off.
I think the PUC might say, well, we no longer have the authority to do what you want us to do in that respect. Well, if that's true, then the legislature needs to come in and fix it so they can go after these guys.
We walk a very tight rope. We walk down the middle of the line, and I think our best day is when generally both sides are unhappy with us.
DeCook is unhappy with that answer and reminds the commission about the first word in its name.
I don't think they ever really figured out that protecting the public was what the public thought they were there for.
Now, critics say the law that deregulated electricity also defanged the PUC, limiting what it can legally do, and it has no authority over pricing. The investigation continues into the price spikes this winter, but to date, the PUC has not disciplined any company for wrongdoing. Not yet, anyway. We shall see. Lots of Pennsylvanians got burned this winter with sky-high electric bills, prompting some to wonder, where does electricity come from? The answer is an amazing place outside Philadelphia that controls the flow of electricity for much of the country. But critics say its lack of control in January caused prices to soar and some customers to get shocked. It's in a nondescript office park in Norristown. As unremarkable as PJM is from the outside, it's a modern marvel on the inside.
The largest grid in the world.
Electricity for 13 states and D.C. is controlled from this Philly suburb. $40 billion a year is generated here, making it the largest wholesale market in the world.
There's never been a blackout in the PJM footprint.
A power pirouette is performed here, ordering enough to keep everyone's lights on, but not too much.
Right, so you want to figure out exactly what the demand on the system is going to be, schedule the right resources to be online when you need them, take them off when you don't need them, and while you're doing that, making sure that you're scheduling the most economic, the cheapest resource next, so it reduces impacts to our customers. Yes, very unusual event.
Mike Bryson won't soon forget January 7th. Low temperatures caused record demand. PJM blew through its cheaper power sources and was forced to the more expensive stuff. Bills skyrocketed, and Norristown is getting the blame.
We are suffering the complaints and having to deal with the complaints and the heartaches of customers, primarily because of failings in the wholesale electricity market.
PUC Commissioner Jim Cawley blames PJM for not inspecting companies that are paid to be ready to deliver cheaper power when needed. 22% of them were offline January 7th.
They are paid to stand by and be ready to provide power when it is needed. PJM, for whatever reason, stopped testing a number of these people receiving capacity payments, and almost a third of them did not deliver when the power was needed.
How come those generators were out when we needed them the most? And that's probably the one we'll spend a lot of time over the next 9 months fixing.
While PJM works on its fixes, consumers are left to wonder if the market was fixed. Cheaper power not showing up, forcing the more expensive stuff into play. A preliminary report by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission says no.
At first glance, they don't see any market manipulation, but that's not to say they're going to be doing a deeper dive looking into this.
Well, that's what Enron did in California back in the 1990s. They took plants offline to cause the price of electricity to go up.
Dave DeCook is a reporter who covered the PUC during deregulation.
Did that happen here? Probably not, but you just never know. It's that nagging doubt, and if nobody's really looking, you'll never get an answer to that question.
Even the guy in charge of all this power understands why people are wondering if somebody has too much.
It's something I think should be concerning people, to make sure that there was no kind of manipulation in the market.
Now, interestingly, summer, not winter, is typically when electricity demand spikes. Mike says PJM needs to do a better job next winter of making sure power suppliers are ready to go, and there needs to be stiffer penalties, he says, if they're not. He also said 13 states and D.C. It's not usually freezing everywhere. The PJM footprint is all that wide space. Normally they can borrow power from one area where it's not as cold to help the other, but it was cold everywhere in January and it couldn't shift. Everybody had, that's why the demand was so high. Electric customers that were stung this winter with bills that skyrocketed were promised swift action to fix flaws in the system. And a bill chock full of reforms was supposed to run today in the House until the plug got pulled.
We're going to get a bill. We're going to get a bill. I just don't have it this week.
Bob Godshaw is on a mission after customers got electric bills that tripled, even quadrupled. His bill, 2104, would require clearer contract language. It would stop companies from dumping fixed-rate customers into variable rates when their contracts end and let them switch to a new supplier within 5 days. But most importantly, he'd cap at 30% per month the amount a bill could increase.
That's absolutely totally fair, because in 3 months, when you compound it, you're up to basically almost 100% increase.
Electric suppliers don't like the cap. Their lobbying wing, the Retail Energy Supply Association, said legislative caps run counter to the intent of free markets, adding the bill would also ban certain types of products from the marketplace and will deprive customers of the electricity products and pricing plans in the future. Godshaw says energy companies have even complained to him that putting caps on what they can charge is too dangerous for them.
If it's too dangerous for the industry, what about the consumers?
Godshaw's bill was supposed to run this week, but got pulled.
I think what's happened is that there are opponents to the 2104. The energy companies don't like the cap.
Ray Landis is with AARP, which supports 2104 because it protects seniors on fixed incomes. He worries because lawmakers don't return until June 2nd.
More stalling we see on it, the harder it is to get it finished by the end of June.
I have not been happy the way the PUC has performed in this. They had a chance to work with us.
Godshaw also blames the Public Utility Commission. He says it was asked for input as the bill was being crafted and got no response. But the PUC is now raising concerns. He suspects the commission wants to kill the cap because it fears it will chase suppliers out of the state. But Godshaw says the cap must stay.
As far as I'm concerned, it would be great to lose some of the companies that were operating here in Pennsylvania.
Now, the PUC disputes Godshaw's version of events, saying it never saw 2104 until after it was introduced and was not asked for input along the way. The commission, in a statement, does say it's not sure caps are necessary given the other consumer protections that are in the bill. Well, more than 18,000 Pennsylvanians called the PUC about sky-high electric bills this winter. We've reported it. More than 7,500 official complaints were lodged. The PUC proposed fixes last month and today got the green light to implement them. New rules are coming to the companies that sell you electricity, and the Public Utility Commission pushed them through.
There's a lot of lessons learned.
It wants all contracts to be standardized and in clear, bold language explaining to customers the potential costs, specifically on variable rate contracts. Utilities also must switch customers to new suppliers within 3 business days. Right now, customers can be stuck in what they see as a bad deal for as many as 40.
So they have portability to move now. We think that's good for consumers. They can avert. They have a risk aversion now right at their disposal by just calling in and getting their meter read in 3 business days and getting back out into the market.
Utilities have 6 months to install the necessary technology to make quick switching possible. Some of those companies have complained it's too expensive or too difficult to do. Powelson has a quick answer to that.
Hogwash.
But there was surprising dissent from State Rep Robert Godshaw.
The problems we have is variable rates.
Chair of the Consumer Affairs Committee. He's pushing his bill that would include the reforms adopted Thursday, but would also cap at 30% how much an electric bill could jump from 1 month to the next.
The only way the consumers are going to be protected is with a cap. Just like they are on rates at a bank, just like they are on credit cards.
Godshaw was hoping to keep the pressure on fellow lawmakers to support his more comprehensive bill and worries that by approving these 2 reforms, the pressure's now off.
I'm afraid what it's going to do is going to slow the stronger bill down.
Powelson does not personally support caps and fears they would chase suppliers out of the marketplace, but he's still promising to chase out companies that intentionally ripped off customers.
I've never stuttered in saying there will be a loud and clear message sent to these suppliers. And it comes in the form of license being revoked.
Now, the PUC and the Attorney General continue to investigate if customers were ripped off by electric companies. We'll keep you posted on that.